Supporting the needs of the police department, food bank, KPTZ, and other stakeholders as the school district transitioned its operation to the city. I was the executive director of Squamish Valley Chamber of Commerce through the pandemic. And we mobilized over $500,000 for small businesses from the city's rapid relief program. I've stabilized our 4-H program. We've had years of turnover, and I'm the longest tenured coordinator since 1989. 99. 89, that's a long time. And as a superintendent at the Jefferson County Fair Association, I'm helping recapture institutional memory and developing an achievable strategic plan with my colleagues on the board. Leading local government is extraordinarily challenging work, and I am so proud to have the endorsement of our past 3 county commissioners in this district, along with a number of other former elected officials from both parties. They know what the job takes. They've worked with me, and they agree that I have the skill set necessary to do this job. We now know that the median house price has risen to over $640,000, and a living wage is $63,000. Living, not thriving. 30% of your income spent on your housing is considered affordable. I personally pay 42% just up the hill, and I feel lucky. Folks that I work with, neighbors, young people, are worried but hopeful. We are struggling to live and raise families here, and we need access to housing, health care, and more child care. I don't know if you guys know that that's a big issue. We need an ecosystem for a stronger economy. And I know what it's like to hunt for housing, survive on a shrinking income. I know what the pressure of raising kids and caring for aging parents is like. And I intend to be a champion for working families and regular folks because of my own real world experience. When Jefferson County government was not able to fully fund the Urban After School program, I wasn't willing to let that program end. It was our most successful. It had the highest attendance, and it was only $15,000. $15,000. I'll pause.
That enough? That's probably not. I think we're probably not. Thank you, though.
It'd be a lot easier to hear.
All right,
You don't really back me up.
I'll back up. I'll start from this top up. When Jefferson County was unable to fully fund the Urban After School program, I did not want to let that end. I wasn't willing to let that end. I worked with local philanthropists, other county departments, and with grant funding, and we will be able to continue that program through the end of the fiscal year. That spurred a lot of questions. What is our financial plan? What forecast does the county have? And the answer didn't satisfy me. The Government Financial Officers Association recommends that a county of our size have a 4-phase, 6-year financial plan. This is my #1 priority. As we'll remember from last week, financial plan, financial plan, financial plan. I want to look at the whole picture and learn from the past. I know the story of when Jefferson County almost went bankrupt. I know what was done to build back our reserves, to grow our county, to invest in its kids like me. I don't think hunkering down and waiting for the storm to roll over us is responsible. Our tax base needs to expand. Those reserves have to be built back. And we need to make sure that we are not left behind. We have to work even harder to get our fair share. Our state and federal partners have to hear the voices of this county from everywhere, every corner of this county. I will share your stories because they are also my story. I developed a strong work ethic growing up loading bales of hay and shoveling manure, which is a great skill set for a politician. I know how to disagree with folks work with folks that I don't see eye to eye with, and above all, stay connected through conflict. My heart and soul are rooted in rural Jefferson County, and I have a broad network of trusted relationships. My first fair as superintendent felt like I was drinking through a fire hose. Keeping over 100 kids safe on 20 acres is not for the faint of heart, but watching herds of kids run around and make core memories and lifelong friendships reminded me of my childhood, and I want to share that with you all. At the end, a kiddo came up to me and said, "Angie, this belongs to us," and that's what I want for everyone in this county. This belongs to us.
Thank you, Angie. I was gonna ask if you could hear it all right, but since there was clapping in the back of the room, I'm gonna go with yes, you could, other than the chairs. Next up is Christopher Hinton.
Alright, is this loud enough? Yeah, okay. Let me start off by addressing, I promise I didn't just get out of high school. No, I look very young. I'm 37. I've worked and lived in Jefferson County for about 15 years now. So I'm going to use this time to really talk about myself, my story, and some of the expertise that I would bring to the county level. I grew up in a single parent family with 2 siblings, one that had a disability, and we really got by on government programs. They kept the food on the table and the lights on and a lot of work by my mother. So that really set the stage for how I view a community where you really need to offer people a hand up if they're going to be able to do anything. Because those programs supported me to become the first person in my family to attend and graduate college. I went through that program and I got a degree in philosophy, so I focused on critical thinking skills as well as a focus on ethics, because I was very much concerned on what it means to be both a good person and a good community member and how I could contribute to that with my life's work. Shortly after that, I moved to Jefferson County. As I said, it was about 15 years ago. When I got here, though, I ran into a struggle that is very familiar for a lot of people. Housing is very hard to come by in this area. I ended up homeless. Me and my partner moved here, and we were homeless for almost a year in this area. Despite finding a job, working, it still just wasn't enough to make it in the Port Townsend area. Despite that, I was doing community work already. I was donating to local homeless shelters. I was helping transport food and food security. And then I finally got some steady work and an apartment to share with my wife, and we moved in and I started doing education. So originally I began that work in doing literacy courses for low-income families or English as a second language families in the community, and that really grew a lot of my roots in the area. We have a lot of diverse families that serve our community in this area, and they really needed some assistance, so that was super impactful. After that, I became a preschool teacher because I thought my life wasn't hectic enough. And that, I think, is also going to have a lot of skill translation into local government, because you can guess. From there, after 10 years in the education space, I still am very passionate about helping young people, but I did just feel 10 years, I want to do something slightly different. Let's change a little bit of trajectory. So I moved into the housing world. So the last 5 years or so, I've been working in housing and infrastructure in Jefferson County. I work for a local nonprofit that we try to do our best to support the homeless population in the county and support families that are struggling or housing insecure. In that role, it's given me a lot of insight into the housing issues, struggles, and unique nature of Jefferson County. And alongside that, the organization that I work for, we are the recipients of all of the state and federal grants that come in for housing. And you might be aware, housing grants are some of the largest budgets that the government hands out if you're not counting military type budgets. And so I have a lot of fiscal management experience, managing both my team and those budgets to make sure the dollars are being spent well, all the line items are checked off, and the very long list that the government gives you of requirements to make sure you're doing everything and executing everything properly. And then more recently, having to navigate with our current administration, massive cuts consistently and trying to do what you can with a shrinking budget over and over again. Those two things, I think, are going to lead me well into what my priorities will be for the county. Housing, as it is my expertise, and I have been telling people, no matter what your issue is, whether it be taxes, education, anything, our housing situation in Jefferson County is making it worse. And if we can support that, it alleviates so much pressure on everything else that's going on in our county. And then that fiscal management skills that I just described previously is sort of the second priority. Our county is in a deficit, our state is in a deficit. It does not seem like it is going to be getting better anytime in the near future. So we need someone that already has established skills with very large budgets, making those tough decisions, and actually navigating that to try and get us out of this crisis. So those are my two focuses, and with the background in both critical thinking from philosophy to have a large view, as well as my focus on ethics, I hope to be both a transparent member of the local government team, receptive to feedback and listening to everyone's differing opinions, as well as a calm and poised reaction to any time there's disagreement or conflicts that I had to learn when dealing with very angry preschoolers.
Thank you, Christopher. Stephen, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Entitled, a little speech for you. Hope and Good Governance. So my name is Stephen Neiman. I live right here in Port Ludlow, and I'm running for Jefferson County Commissioner. For most of my career, I've worked in construction consulting, construction business administration. I spent decades in the field, on job sites, managing projects, later helping resolve complex building and infrastructure issues. Now that work's taught me something. Simple but important. When rules and processes become too rigid or too expensive, real building stops. And when building stops, opportunity shrinks. I chose Port Ludlow for the same reasons many of you did. It's beauty. It's quiet, dignity. And a sense of refuge it offers. I respect the lives that you've each built here. Many of you moved to this community after long careers, bringing with you resources and security that allowed you to shape this place, and this is a real achievement. I'm honored. I enjoyed it. But tonight I want to talk to you about something. Something deeper than policy details. I want to talk to you about dreams versus a closed way of thinking. Dreams do not arise from scarcity or from a system designed around managed supply. A truly lived life is not only about securing one's own retirement, it's also about ensuring the next generation can still dream here in Jefferson County. Now, most of us here in Port Ludlow are retired. We came seeking tranquility. Yet in doing so, we have perhaps unintentionally supported county policies which are well-intentioned, but greatly diminish opportunity for working families. Young tradespeople, firefighters, teachers, and those raising children in Quilcene, Brennan, and other parts of the county. This is not about guilt. It's about awakening to a larger responsibility. That's why I'm running. I have a comfortable life. But I get it. Right now, Jefferson County faces a serious budget challenge. We began this year, as I understand it, with a projected 5.2 million general budget deficit. Even after cuts, we're still looking at a roughly, I think it's 1.1 million shortfall, if I understand it correctly. And we're drawing down reserves. Property tax growth is limited to 1%, plus new construction, yet new construction has been slow for years. Automatic stacking of the strictest standards, costly special reports, even for smaller projects, heavy burdens placed on applicants have made building and improving property significantly more difficult and expensive. Now you can see the results in our budgets. Now revenues tied to development and property transaction have stayed modest or flatlined for the most part. Now while we carry high fixed administration costs, there's really only one source that I see of additional revenue. You wanna know what that is? You. So we need change. We do not have to accept this as an inevitable path. Now, I believe Jefferson County can choose what I call an open system. One that honors our retirees while creating real opportunity for the next generation, and that's why we're proposing 2 practical steps. I developed a workforce ownership housing pilot because my most principal impetus for running was I need to get young people into homes, and I don't see where they're making enough money on a standard mortgage platform to make that happen. So I've got it here. Lost a lot of copies, got chewed up in the last place I was at, but a couple of you can get to it if you want to see how it's broken down. Second, a smarter mobility partnership that serves our seniors with dignity. This is a standard of care issue. We should not have old people walking on 8 inches worth of dirt alongside a busy highway to get to a bus stop. We got to deal with that, and we got to deal with it without raising revenue from you. I think we can do it. So third, the possibility of expanding our port capabilities for the purpose of providing access to greater markets for farming and light industry. Now these ideas are not radical. They're dreams made practical. They say the next generation should still be able to afford a home here, raise a family here, and contribute to a thriving county. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. Port Ludlow residents have wisdom, resources, and freedom that comes with experience. Imagine what becomes possible when some of that experience and stability is channeled into a building a county where our children and grandchildren can also choose to stay. Those people graduating from high school, they're our assets, they need to stay here. We do not need to choose between protecting what we love about this place and creating opportunity for those who come next. An open system holds both. It honors the past without closing the door on the future. I'm not here to criticize how any of us have arrived at this moment. I'm here to invite all of us, retirees, working families, and everyone in between, to dream bigger together. Hope is a song we sing to the future. Let's make sure it's a song about what we build together, not just what we can receive. And that's a choice that we have before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Jean, you're
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? I need to go start singing. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to the PLDC for hosting this evening's event, and to Jeff, all the volunteers who helped put together this forum. I'm Jean Ball, and I'm running to be your next county commissioner. I moved here from Vermont in 2002, about 24 years. I came here to further my studies in mycology. For the past 20 years, I have run my own business, but my commitment to this community extends far beyond my work. I spent those same years working alongside community members to solve problems and make our communities stronger and embolden our families. I have served for 9 years on the Citizens Advisory Committee to the Sheriff, where I helped secure funding for a dedicated South County deputy, the result of which has been a measurable decrease in crime rate and recidivism. There has been an improved public safety element and crime prevent. Is that me doing that? I'm not even here.
It's a really weird mic. It picks up pops like crazy.
Sorry everyone. As the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce and now as a board member for the Economic Development Council, I have worked to support local businesses and promote the kind of economic opportunity that creates stronger, more resilient communities and helps ensure rural residents have access to the services they need. In last year, in 2025, I led Accessible Transportation Benefit District to increase dedicated funding for roads maintenance and equipment. This ballot measure was a 0.2% sales tax increase, which was passed by a supermajority of the voters of the unincorporated area of the county. So that's not Port Townsend. To pass a tax like that in the unincorporated area says to me there was significant support for that issue, and that it is well received. And now we're seeing the results of that work, of that funding, through the earliest ever chip seal program in the county. When the Jupiter Mountain Fire threatened our community in Brennan, I coordinated volunteers, raised funds, and got involved directly. We fed over 600 firefighters from around the county, around the country, around Canada and Mexico, 3 meals a day, and that went on for weeks. When FEMA unexpectedly designated Brennan as a floodplain, we didn't wait for the county to provide solutions for us. We activated ourselves. We formed a group, and we organized, and we engaged local, state, and federal agencies to come up with funding and a plan to study the river and what the options were for mitigation. Because if those homes and those businesses flood, all those septic systems are gonna pollute the sound. And we're gonna look like Texas. No offense to Texans.
No, there you go.
We don't wanna look like them in that way. I helped the Chimacum School Band raise more than $150,000 to send the band to Washington, D.C. They'll be sending 40 students and the color guard and 6 chaperones because they needed exposure, and they knew that I could put them in touch with people and to help increase the exposure and raise that funding. And when they wanted to have an audience in the Capitol in Olympia, they called me to see if I could make it happen. And I called Senator Chapman and asked him to do so. And he said that was not really an option because that honor would be reserved for the death of a colleague or a military procession. He said, well, this is a special event. Why don't you see what you can do? Maybe write a resolution or something. He did. We brought the kids down to Olympia and they played in the rotunda. And then they were gonna get on the bus and leave. And I asked the superintendent, where's the governor? How come the governor's not here to speak to these students and tell them how impressive their work, their hard work, their dedication, all their effort, all the practices. Just say a couple words to these kids who are the only band in the whole state that's been invited to Washington, D.C. The superintendent said, governor's busy, got a complicated schedule. I wasn't satisfied. I went to the governor's office. The governor's staff told me, governor's on the phone. I pitched it. I kept pitching it. I pitched it a 3rd time. Finally, the executive assistant came out and I pitched it again. And I don't know what it was that I said, but she finally agreed. She said, okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. And she brought the governor out, got him off the phone, and gave those kids an opportunity because I wasn't going to take no for an answer. When the Quilcene School Levy failed, I got involved. I'm in the Chimacum School District, and I don't have children. But when that levy failed, it was my personal obligation to get involved, and I did. And I organized a group of people, and we did a lot of voter outreach, and we messaged the issue, and we turned out the highest turnout we've ever seen for an issue in Quilcene. For 8 years, I have served on the board of the Northwest Watershed Institute, helping protect and restore lands that make Jefferson County. Oh, really? Oh, I went off on a tangent, and I'm so sorry. Well, so, I have served for 8 years on the Northwest Watershed Institute, where we restore habitat and we conserve land, because that's what makes this place special, is our environment. We work on salmon restoration projects and watersheds, it's Northwest Watershed. I guess I could skip the rest of it, but there is one question I would like to answer just because I was asked it on the way in here, and that's what am I going to do for Port Ludlow? And I'll tell you, I have been coming to Port Ludlow Village meetings, Village Council meetings for over 2 years religiously, and that preceded my
these folks. And I was not the one who asked Gene that question about what are you gonna do for Port Ludlow. But the first question we're gonna ask everybody is, what are the immediate issues, and we'll start with Christopher, and then we'll just jump one for each of these questions. What are the immediate issues to be addressed in Jefferson County? I know you guys touched on that a little bit. And how might these issues affect Port Ludlow?
Can I go back to that one?
Oh, you can stay there and just share that mic if you want. Just make sure you use a mic so the camera picks it up.
Okay. Testing. Okay.
You do have to get closer to this one than that.
Yeah. So as I sort of mentioned in my opening dialogue, I do think housing is the #1 issue in all of Jefferson County, and how it links to Port Ludlow and District 3 in particular. If you are upset about any of the levy lifts, we need more housing for workers so that we can generate more revenue. If you are concerned about the environment, we need intelligent planning about where we put housing to support our environment. If you're concerned about the future generations, if they graduate high school and there is no housing for them, they will leave and they have left or they have been stuck with parents. So as I said, no matter what your particular issue is, housing is affecting it, and there are many different levels and levers that we can pull to support it. The county is not gonna be able to fix it on its own, so it will take a lot of collaboration. Luckily, coming into the housing world from education, actually, can I pause for how long do I have to stay?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys about a minute and a half.
A minute and a half, okay, so.
Just so we can get through the whole panel.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go on a long rant, never mind. So, I don't know how long I was already talking, but anyway, I'll just start with, I've had a lot of experience bringing disparate groups together to collaborate and work on a project together and get things done. Coming from education, you have to do that with little resources among the teachers in every school. Coming into housing, every nonprofit needs to partner together to get anything done in this space because it is a Herculean lift to actually address any of this. So we're gonna need that partnership.
Thank you, Christopher. Stephen, did you take notes? You want me to reread the question?
Yeah.
Would you reread it, please?
Yeah, sure. What are the immediate issues to be addressed in Jefferson County, and how might those affect Port Ludlow?
Ratchet back, the critical areas ordinance, it's well beyond the Growth Management Act and its requirements. Got a number of those proposals on my website, Neiman numerical4commissioner.com. Can you hear me? I'm stuffing my face, right? I would say that's the first thing we need to do. Then I have a compendium of other proposals that are necessary to be accepted as a general philosophical change in structure of thinking, meaning that we are going to accept growth, targeted growth in key locations with the express purpose of bringing in outside money, both in manufacturing and retail. We just need to accept the fact that we're going to, it's necessary for us to do this to provide for future generations. We can do it by being in compliance with the Growth Management Act. We can certainly do it with keeping a close watch on the environmental impacts and continuing that process, but there are areas that we can target for economic growth. Will it affect Port Ludlow? I don't think so, not in the immediate sense. Other than I have some, one of the compendium of ideas, and these all go hand in hand, and there's a reason for that, they build on one another. Increased mobility for our bus lines, which is a policy that's being introduced in a variety of places, and I do have some information here that I can give you. I think I've got a few of those left, but they're on my website, you can get all that stuff.
Did I run out already?
Yeah, your time's up, sorry.
Ran long the first time and ran short the second. We need to broaden the tax base. We have a very limited opportunity for generating revenue in this county. We have primarily sales tax and we have property tax. We do have some PILT money, that's payment in lieu of taxes, you know, from the national park and state parks, that sort of thing. But continuing to ask the same people over and over for more and more is not acceptable. It's a burden. I hear from people every day that they're living on a limited income, a fixed income. I can't just jack up my rates on my services whenever we decide we want to spend more or give more to the county or whatever it is. We need to broaden the tax base. We need services. We need service providers. We need medical service providers. We need more restaurants. We need more access to skilled tradespeople. We need to support marine trades. It's those things that are, I'm not talking about big box stores. I'm talking about the things that are culturally consistent with the area that we live in, that we all cherish. We're all here for a reason. We didn't move here because it was going to be a city, but we did move here for quality of life, and these things are part of that. Infill, we need to focus on infill, because you get your biggest bang for the buck out of the infrastructure and the cost of building out that infrastructure when you're filling in those spaces in between where the development already is. We shouldn't be promoting sprawl, of course, but we should be working on infill to broaden that tax base, to bring in more revenues, and to provide services. How's my time?
All right, the question is, what are the immediate issues in Jefferson County and how will it impact Port Ludlow? I think you guys know what my first answer will be. Financial planning, financial planning, financial planning. And that affects all of us because we're the ones who pay those bills. I want you guys to know what you pay for. When I do an impact report for 4-H, I make sure that you know exactly where your dollars went, what impact it made on the community, how it's going to help the bottom line in the future. And that's something I would want to extend to every department in our county government. You should know exactly what you're paying for. With that, I also think that we need to deepen our public engagement. When there's a cell tower being built in Max Bay, and people don't know about it, the immediate reaction is, tell me more. And you go on that website, Chris talked about it last week, county website is real sad. I would really like to see more public engagement. It's not just putting something on your website, hosting a forum, being actively engaged and talking to the people who live where the issue is critical to me. Solid waste facility, similar situation. Knowledge is power, and I would like to see all of our community members have more knowledge around how things are happening here. Traffic is a big issue. I get asked a lot, will you lower the speed limit on this road? That's a very complicated question. County commissioners only have authority over certain things. So that's what I would focus on.
All right, thank you guys. So we'll start with you, Stephen, on the next one. Port Ludlow has an older population. What senior services would you like to see implemented or brought to Port Ludlow?
One of the critical infrastructure issues that we have is access to bus lines. See if I've got one of those left for you. If you don't. One of the compendium of ideas, which I believe is necessary for us to implement, is it's a service that's being used in Cologne County. They're using it in a variety of other areas. It's what we do is we reduce the stops in a bus line. We have a bus line hub. I've got a couple key areas I would like to utilize for that. And then you're using, very similar to Uber drivers, but contract drivers, bringing people to those locations. And what we do is we increase the bus line service to 30 minutes. It's stopping, it's moving very quickly to key locations, hospitals, different centers set up. Quite frankly, the idea of you guys walking down the side of a road to access a bus stop is absurd. So we don't have the money to put sidewalks in. That's one of the ideas that I have. It's not just centered around you. I'm not patronizing you. There's a much bigger idea here as it pertains to workforce housing, mixed-use commercial centers that I have in areas that I anticipate proposing for development. One that's going to cut down a lot of traffic, and the price of cars has gone through the roof. A lot of people just simply can't be maintaining cars, and if we can increase access to public transportation, in addition to working with businesses so that they are coordinating their requirements, their hours around access to those times. I think we can move that direction.
I hear all the time when I'm out canvassing Port Ludlow that we need access to walkable communities, that it's difficult to get around here, that as people age, they don't want to be driving to Silverdale for medical services. We need more medical service providers in Jefferson County, and in particular Port Ludlow. This county is the eldest county in the whole state, one of the eldest in the whole nation. And to build without the forethought of providing services to an aging population seems short-sighted. I agree with Stephen. We need more bus services and shuttles, perhaps, puddle jumpers or whatever it is that helps people. We have topography, terrain here, so maybe the bus service can hit the arterials, but getting up and down the hills and into the ravines is quite difficult, and people can't do that. And the schedule is burdensome as well. It doesn't really facilitate an active life. If you can catch a bus in the morning, but then you can't get home until the evening, what do you do all day? Incentivizing businesses. We need to incentivize businesses to provide access to retail opportunities that the people here use. Am I out?
Oh, great. The question is, what will I do to help support the senior population in services in Port Ludlow? My biggest focus for Port Ludlow is helping folks feel a deeper sense of belonging. We have a unique type of community where a corporation leads all of the development, and we know that that system is going to shift soon. And I think it's really critical that we invest deeply in our relationships with each other. I've had an incredible time getting to know folks at the monthly Wednesday luncheon. Shout out, you guys should come to it. It'll start back up, I think, in October. There's a farmer's market now on Fridays. It's incredible. I think that we need to have our county commissioners and other leaders actively engaged in the community here as that shift in leadership happens. I'm concerned about our water system. It is extraordinarily expensive. I spend more money on my water bill here than I did when I lived in Honolulu, Hawaii. And it's going to fail. And there's a lot of people that rely on that water system. So I want to have a plan. I also want to invest in emergency services. If we have a major disaster and we lose our connection to our food system, to the lines of transportation, this community is specifically targeted. It's going to be really hard for us. So I want to make sure that we have a plan.
A lot of great answers already, so I'll not repeat any of the amazing priorities that my fellow candidates have already spoken on. But one that is very important for me, that is a priority for an aging population. My mother-in-law, not that long ago, suffered multiple heart attacks, and though this is unfortunate, it is not too uncommon. And the difficulty in both access to services and care, and even our Jefferson Healthcare Hospital in Port Townsend does not have adequate resources to serve heart issues. You have to go all the way to St. Michael's. So one of the things I would like to address and change in Port Ludlow and Jefferson County in particular among the rural spaces is there are explorations right now in process to bring specialized equipment to our EMS to put in ambulances so that when you're having those critical, very time-sensitive health emergencies, that the people who are driving you to a more equipped facility in that long route that it takes to get you your care, that they will be adequately equipped to make sure you survive that trip. We are very lucky that my mother-in-law is still with us, but not everyone is that lucky when the trip is 40, 50 minutes, and God forbid the bridge is down when you need to go. So we really need to make equipped to handle the emergencies when we have such a long delay before you can get critical access.
Awesome, thank you all. The next one, we're gonna start with Eugene on this one. And it kind of picks up where Angie left off. What does the future of Port Ludlow look like to you?
Whose question was that? What does the future of Port Ludlow look like? I'd like to see, more representation from the public. It seems that the people, the residents who live here are less in control of their own destiny than I would like to see them be. Perhaps, I don't know, there's sort of a structural divide there, partly due to, Angie touched on it a little bit. This whole cell tower thing has been an eye-opener. Was it up to code? Was it allowed by land use? Perhaps. Was it insufficient? 100%. It didn't notify people correctly. The way they reached out to people within 300 feet wasn't sufficient for something of this magnitude. There's room for improvement. To allow something like that on rural residential property maybe should be reconsidered. Perhaps it would be better positioned elsewhere. Do we need access to better coverage? Yeah, you bet we do. I think that's what the future of Port Ludlow would look like. It's people engaging and having a determinative factor in their own futures, and rather than having decisions made for them, engaging in the process and determining the outcome.
All right, we'll be very 4-H here. The question is, what does the future of Port Ludlow look like to me? I think that our community has the most impressive brain trust in Jefferson County that is not utilized. I manage volunteers who have expertise and share that with the next generation, and the capacity that Port Ludlow has for that is so inspiring. I love talking to my neighbors and figuring out what incredible profession they have retired here from and how they want to share that with the next generation. Particularly my aerospace friends. We want to make some rockets and robots. We're going to do it. And I think that it's a unique situation. We have not had a county commissioner who lives in Port Ludlow in District 3. So having a representative who lives in this community, who knows what the issues are from their neighbors, from swimming at the beach club, from taking a walk on a hike and seeing the incredible amount of brush clearing that has been done to protect our neighbors from fire. There's so much generosity and so much wisdom here that I would like to tap and inspire the rest of our county with. I really think that Port Ludlow is poised to be a leader. So the future that I see is Port Ludlow leading the county into a connected and more empowered future.
I live down in Paradise Bay, so not very far from here, and overall, I'll say I think the future of Port Ludlow, as was sort of mentioned, needs to get more input from people from Port Ludlow. I don't think it is the commissioner's place to generally come in and just be like, well, this is what's going to happen in this area. You need to be engaging the public, especially if you're doing any changes within that community. And so for my 2 cents in the bucket as a member of Port Ludlow, I will selfishly say I would love a grocery store here. Shout out for that. I do think we need a few more services out in Port Ludlow because there is a severe lack for people to support, whether that be local businesses, contributing sales tax to the county, or just as mentioned in my previous talk, you need to go minimum 40 minutes to get any sort of critical services, whether that be health, food, or entertainment of any kind. So, yeah.
what does your life look like if I'm county commissioner? Well, we talked just briefly about the mobility hubs. That's, of course, that's part of what I'm presenting as a compendium of ideas. Quite frankly, I'm looking, what my ideal would be somewhere around Highway 101, Beaver Valley Highway, somewhere up in that region. What does this mean? We offset the cost for this development by commercializing. And you're right to say that we need to bring in a access to food and other supplies, and that there'll be a commercial center that I have envisioned. Now, how do we offset the cost? What we're really doing is bringing in infrastructure that we need as a county, but putting together RFP, develop a plan that commercial investors can look at and go, yeah, we can make money there. The one thing I will insist on is I'm not interested in box stores. We have a unique Northwest look. Even when I built a house here, I built it specifically to look like a Northwest build. So I'm going to be so presumptuous as to insist on a very, very specific design set of parameters. That's probably going to put people, box stores and big chains on their heels. Tough. We want to keep that Northwest feel, and we want to the Civic Center to have a sense of the motif which we're trying to protect here. That's how your life will change. We are actively moving in those development key areas. Not sprawl, target. It's for you.
The struggle is real. We're back to Angie, and I'm gonna combine about 4 questions into one because they're all kind of about budget and priorities, and then we'll come back and give each a minute and a half or 2 minutes just to kind of wrap up, and then we'll let you guys mingle as you want to or don't want to, and people can approach you and ask more targeted questions specifically. So the budget forecast, as we've heard, is not great. And so things that have come into us, questions about road maintenance, potholes, restriping, fog lines. We had a question come in about anchoring regulations and how to enforce derelict vessel regulations in the bay, and how does the budget process play into that? And tourism dollars that get generated here don't always come back here, and is that part of your plan or your vision, or is that a kind of a misinterpretation of colloquial knowledge, and that's not how it happens. So it's a super broad question. Pick pieces you feel strongly about, whether it's the bay or the road striping or the potholes or the tourism dollars, and then we'll do a little more and wrap up.
How long do we have again? All right, so the question's about budget priorities, and you guys know that budget is a priority for me. I hear from a lot of folks about road maintenance issues. My top priority with our budget, beyond finding more revenue, not from us, from our partners, is to make sure that we're using every dollar as efficiently as we can. Recently, the city and the county have started to partner on chip sealing the city because the county owns the equipment, they have the staff. It's cheaper for the city to hire the county to come and do that work. And that's a great example of what I would like to see happen throughout our county systems. More synergies, save the taxpayers dollars. Save them dollars that we can invest in enforcement that will handle the anchor issues that are out here. Because our bay is a critical environment, and with pollution and honestly derelict vessels sinking, and that's something we can prevent, and I want to keep people safe. So I don't want to see those anchoring issues continue. I would like to have that addressed with the proper enforcement. Now, tourism. That's a really big question. I have a lot of experience. I have managed several $1 million of lodging tax funds in targeted ways. And SWIM is very efficient with their money. They invest primarily in things that happen October through May. And I think that we should do that as well. So I don't know if you've tried to book a hotel in this area in August, July and August. They're full. We don't need more events then. We need them in the shoulder seasons.
So the question really overall is one of how do you prioritize budget restraints with the needs of your constituents. So first I'll say, our county government is a team. I can't go in there and say, hey, District 3 is the coolest because I live there and we should really only focus on that. I do have to advocate for it, but also understand that each commissioner serves all of Jefferson County, and you also need to understand the economics of Jefferson County are intertwined. Everything affects every other part of the system. So you really need a broad view, and you need to be able to sort of live with the consequences, because every decision you make is going to affect something else, and it might not be in a positive way. In the work I do in homelessness, there's a long process, for instance, to get someone housed. I'm at sort of the end of that process. I am the final person who makes a referral for someone who goes from homelessness to housed. And so when you're deciding between individuals, you really need to take the broad view. Housing is going to affect these people's quality of life. If someone at risk of dying, if you make the wrong choice, and then whatever choice you end up making, you need to be able to live with that and learn from it and move forward. So I think that is going to be an extremely valuable skill in approaching all these different issues like roads, boats, as well as everything else that affects the county. So we can take a broad view and really go in surgically to make whatever change we make benefit as many people as we can in the county.
My time, good. With regard to budgets, look, I have the venerable opportunity to run a lot of different jobs. A lot of jobs, bad things happen, you're seeing some drain, what do you do? Same thing's happening here, we're seeing a lot of drain, resources. I have to tell you, I don't like cutting people's salary, I don't. Now, I'm German Dutch, I'm kind of cheap, but here's why. You start messing with people's wages, you start cutting back their department, it's going to affect the product you deliver. I don't want the product to go downhill. So what I'm really asking you to do is consider hiring guys like me who can put together proposals, negotiate economic opportunity. Because when you have a series of jobs, maybe I've had many times on my projects, they're going down, you're going to de-incentivize everybody if you cut their wages or if you pull their laborers out of their job. Everything is, it's a negative. Your product is gonna suffer. What you do is you go out and stake a job with a lot of margin in it. You move forward and you buy that job by moving forward and creating economic opportunity. I don't believe, I pulled every budget line item all the way back to 2021, did an analysis. I don't see where, if you're looking for fraud, it's not there. Abuse, waste, maybe marginal. The real issue is we've got to put our feet to the ground and we have to do things that work in producing economic opportunities.
We need to prioritize essential services versus discretionary spending. Public safety and infrastructure resiliency are critical. Those are things that we can't do without, and when they fail, we all suffer for it. Think about your home budget. How do you manage your finances? You keep the light bill on. You take care of things that must be taken care of first. We're in an economic decline. We don't have a lot of discretionary dollars to play with. We will again in the future, but you need to do the work to get there. And right now, we need to hold steady and focus on those infrastructure resiliency efforts, and public safety is critical. That's where we should be focusing, is keeping people safe.
Okay, before we wrap up, give everybody a chance to most of you in the audience will know that these guys just came from another event from 4 to 5:30 down in Quilcene, so, when they're done, let's make sure we thank them all. So I think we are starting with Chris, we're back to Christopher, right? As our starting, we'll give you 2 minutes each to sort of wrap up and then we'll disperse.
Cool. Well, thank you all for taking the time to listen, and thank you for hosting us in this space. In my work, there is a phrase, some of you may be familiar with it, it's nothing about us without us. And generally that just means if you're serving a population or making programs that affect the population, you need to either include them in the leadership or at least minimum include them in the feedback. Historically, Jefferson County, and this is not to say this is a bad thing, but we've had repeatedly politicians that are all from sort of the same type of background and lifestyle. As I described, I've been homeless in Jefferson County. I've been a working renter in Jefferson County, and then through a lot of luck and grit, I am now a new homeowner in Jefferson County. I have experience in many different realms and experienced many different problems on all sorts of different levels in Jefferson County. So I'm really hoping to be able to represent both with my own lived experience in all of these different realms, because District 3 is very diverse economically and geographically, and then to take my philosophy of making sure to represent everyone's wishes and make sure that I'm taking feedback and turning that into action for all the different populations that are in District 3.
Yeah, so Jefferson County faces a deepening multi-year general fund crisis, we know that. And we're gonna have to pay for that. There's no way around it. Now, Gene rightly pointed out, there's room where we can ratchet back a few of these budget line items, so we can get serious about that. But the only way out, I'm gonna suggest to you very strongly, is we have to commit ourselves to growing our economic engine, and it's going to require change, and we're gonna have to do it within the larger ideas being presented here with people first. We don't wanna roll over the advances we've made in protecting the environment. We certainly wanna do that, but we're gonna have to get really clever, and we're gonna have to commit to it. And really, it's gonna come down to it. People that don't normally agree, people that you don't normally get along with, you're gonna have to partner up with them. Already, I'm stunned how much I like each one of these people. And I'd actually like to work with them in an office, I can tell. So that's what we need to have. We need to have a spirit of unity. I grew up in the Midwest. Farmers, they're large farms, their kids get in fights, there's always rivalries. But when they want to build something, they have meetings just like this, and those cheap German farmers reach their hand in their back pocket and they start writing checks, and we get it done. That's just the way it is. And so we're going to have to decide we need to get along with each other and build something for the next generation.
Jefferson County's forests, waters, farms, and shorelines are not only part of our identity, they sustain our quality of life and are essential to our future. I believe in local prosperity, stability, and stewardship. I believe in listening first, bringing people together, and finding practical solutions that leave Jefferson County stronger than we found it. We don't have to choose between economic opportunity and environmental stewardship, between thriving communities and healthy forests and waters. I believe we can do both, and that's the spirit I would bring to the Commission as we work to protect the extraordinary natural resources and rural character that make Jefferson County such a special place. Over the years, I've had the privilege of serving this community in many different ways, and one thing has remained constant. When there is important work to do, I show up. I show up, I take on big issues, and I deliver results. That's why I have sole endorsement for the Washington Education Association. That's the teachers union. I also have a sole endorsement for the Washington Conservation Action. That's a big statewide conservation group. I would be honored to earn your trust, your support, and your vote. Thank you to everybody for showing up tonight.
Thank you all for being here tonight. This is the first day that all four of us have been in the same room, and has been a real honor. I want to thank the other candidates in this race for truly giving the voters of this county different choices and positive choices, and this is hard work, so let's give all the candidates lots of, This is also a really critical time in the history of our county. We are losing one of our most tenured legislators in Steve Behringer, and it is essential that we pivot away from a personality-based advocacy system to one that relies on systems and documents institutional memory and holds on to our heritage and values for the next generation. I am so grateful. I know that I am here today because the investments of the people in this county, all of you, spent time, energy, and just love putting me here today. And it would be my absolute honor to serve the next generation as your next county commissioner. So thank you for being here. I hope to earn your vote in 40 days and hope to get it again in November. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you all for coming out. I think they're all four gonna mill about a little bit if you wanna talk to them directly or pick up a brochure or whatever other things they have to hand out. And thank you all for coming. Big hand for these guys. Thank you.